Hello! So today is Thursday, and I thought this would be a really good time to start a new reading vlog. So I have a little bit of stuff to do this upcoming few days. I'm going bowling with my friends tonight, and then one of my best friends' birthday party is this weekend, and we're all gonna go get some drinks, go karaoke, and all that. But I thought, because those are the only things I really have to do, and my plan is to have some real good downtime this weekend, I thought I would take off a couple more physical books off of my TBR, so I will let you know. I did the random number generator and I got 2 books. So I got Ghosts from Dolly Alderton. This is one I've had my eye on for a while and I'm really excited. Like I said lately, I feel like I'm in my contemporary life now and my contemporary era, so I'm really glad that came up. And then I'm glad I got that because the second one I got was Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. This is one I started a while ago that I just put down for some reason. Search me why. But sci-fi, it never winds up being like my one true love. Things in space, I tend to get bored a little bit quickly, but I wasn't kind of enjoying this at the time, so I'm excited to pick it back up and give it a go. But especially just as a duo, I think this will be perfect for this weekend. Not to mention Leviathan Wakes, I was just absolutely flying through, so even though it looks like it's a bigger book, I think it will absolutely fly as well. So just took a quick break so I could refill my coffee, but I'm currently working right now and I'm going to see if any of these are available through Libby for an audiobook, and I'll listen to something while I work today. Okay, I'm only 50 pages into Ghost by Dolly Alderton, and I just wanted to talk about it because I'm having such a good time. So it's a weird way to connect with the protagonist. So basically, we're following Nina, who writes cookbooks, and she's pretty successful. She's 32, she owns her first apartment, she's surrounded by great friends and family, and generally has a very full life, like not without its struggles. Her dad is recently had a stroke the past couple of years, and her mom is very quirky. Like the whole ensemble cast gives me Bridget Jones vibes, like just a very quirky and lovable cast thus far that surrounds the story. But Nina herself is 32. She is on very good terms with her long-term ex-boyfriend, and finally, after a couple of years of being purposefully single, she decides it's time to get back in the game. Her ex-boyfriend Joe, who she dated for 4 years, has moved on, and she's met his new girlfriend Lucy and all of that. So she just figures it's time. I have been single long enough. I found myself. I'm happy with my life and I want to get back out there. So she does that and decides to download Links, which is like the fictional Tinder, it seems, and meets this guy Max, who she's really enamored with, who I assume is going to ghost her. But basically, she's 32 and she's in the dating world for the first time in a very, very long time. And there's like such similarities between this character that mirrors my life in the past couple of years, really. Separating with the long-term partner. I was with my last boyfriend for 8 years and it took a lot of mindful time by myself, and to be able to see your life reflected in character but also have it surrounded by so much humor and banter and just like really well written, I feel like it, there's nothing negative about it. It's just so far has made me laugh a couple of times. The observations that Nina makes going back in the dating world. So one thing that definitely differs is I have never used a dating app. Like it wasn't my thing in college. And then of course I met my boyfriend outside of college and was with him for a long time. And then when we separated, like that's just was never going to be something I was interested in. So it is really funny to see Nina kind of, after going so long in a long-term relationship, seeing her have to modernize dating and kind of figure it out in her brain and tackle it in a way that she never has had to before, and basically get like coaching and dating tips from her one last single friend. It's just been such a fun time. So like I said, I'm only 50 pages in, but I'm really enjoying it thus far. Okay, so I wanted to check in and say that I'm having such a good time with Ghosts by Dolly Alderton. I am 71 pages in. It's kind of hard to tell because I am listening through it through audiobook right now. I am experiencing vertigo, which makes it basically impossible to read. But what it does do is I lay in my room and it gives me something to kind of focus in on when I'm otherwise struggling. And this has just been doing such great things. I'm really enjoying my time with this character, with her story, with the romantic romp we're currently taking with Max, who is just being an absolute dream. But I'm feeling more and more confident that he is going to ghost our main character and kind of earn the title of this entire novel. So I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm going to go head into bed now and listen to a little bit more, as it is Friday and my work week has officially ended, and I am going to get some much needed rest. Hello, so I have just finished Ghosts, and I would happily say that I would rate this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I had a really great time, and it wound up being like an antithesis love story. I loved the cast of characters. I loved Nina. I loved the whole vibe of the story. I just really appreciate when contemporary fiction isn't so reliant on a romance. And beyond all of that, the writing was so much fun. The banter was so much fun. I feel like the characters joke and have banter with each other similar to what my friends do. So I really connected on a number of levels with this character. So with that being said, I'm going to move on to Leviathan Wakes, which I might have to kind of refresh and reread a few of the old pages because I'm about 100 pages in from when I first picked it up, and I need to definitely refresh myself with the story. But I had a great time with this one. It wasn't on my immediate radar to pick up, so I definitely think that Random Number Generator is a success because it just reminds me that I bought these books for a reason. And I feel like the way I work is when I buy a new book, obviously the excitement's at a 10, so that becomes at the top of my TBR pile. And like books that I don't quite get to get pushed and pushed down. So it was a great reminder that I bought all these books because I was excited to read them. So I should read them. Okay, so it is the next morning and I've officially read 75 pages more of Leviathan Wakes by James A. Corey. And I will say that the story is picking up. I'm not the one for sci-fi, to be perfectly honest. It's never what grasps my attention the most. My brain tends to kind of tune out when we get too sci-fi, but I will say the plot and the pacing of this has struck a certain chord with me that I am really enjoying it. So we're following Miller, who is kind of a down on his luck detective, and he is assigned and tasked to find a very high up in a political field's daughter, Julia. And as he is doing that, the kind of political sphere around him is getting more and more tense and more elevated. Simultaneously, we are following Holden, who is a captain of a ship, who is captain of a vessel, kind of against his will, where his primary vessel was recently destroyed and he was kind of given the reins to this ship and to a very small and motley crew. And that is a very, very loose beginning to an otherwise rising sort of events. And honestly, I'm into it. I think because further into this book, there is fast pacing, there is definitely a lot of action if that's what you're interested in, but I find I have been kind of more wrapped into the political sphere and rising tensions in this world. So we are following three main groups, basically the Earthers, who, as you can gather, are regular humans, the Martians, who are kind of the ruling class, even though there's not supposed to be a ruling class. They have the most advanced technology, they have the most advanced warfare, and then the OPA, which is a sort of mercenary rebellion group against the Martians. And the Earthers are kind of stuck in the middle, where they have the least amount of technology, but they are pretty high in resources and labor, so they do hold some value still. So while there's rising tensions between the OPA and the Martians, the Earthers are kind of just trying to keep their hands clean of everything. This gets a little more difficult when certain plots and devices become more intertwined with the rising political tension between our two protagonists. So that's a very quick synopsis. I'm just about 200 pages in, and I think I'm just gonna read for a while. Okay, it's a little while later, and I am officially about 250 pages through Leviathan Wakes, and finally the two protagonist perspective, Miller and Holden, have just collided. We finally see the two stories coming together and the political tension rising even more, and I am now super invested in this. I think if you're new to sci-fi like I am, or it's just not maybe your thing, I do think this is still an accessible series and definitely still worth your while, because I definitely think I lean more towards science fantasy, so like maybe more like a Dune series I really enjoy. And this was really surprising, because I would say this is soft science fiction, but definitely science fiction. And I'm really enjoying it and flying through this book. So I spent the morning, it's just getting around like 3 p.m. now. I spent the morning, while I felt well enough, doing a bunch of house stuff. So I swept my floor, watered my plants, and cleaned out my coffee table, which was sorely needed, and did dishes and everything like that. Laundry's all done, so I really am just free for the rest of the day. I am hopeful that I get to go to my friend's birthday party if I'm feeling well enough, but as it stands, I'm just going to take it easy for the rest of the day and aim to finish. I only have about 250 pages left. I think this book, like 300 pages. This book is just about 560 pages, so that's not too bad. And honestly, I just started reading again maybe like 45 minutes ago and read another 100 pages. So like, it reads so quickly, it absolutely flies, and I'm having a great time with it. Okay, I'm just pausing it. I've gone into a weird personal crisis and started rewatching The Hills, but I took a break from Leviathan Wakes. I have such a small amount of pages to go. I'm on page 463, and that makes it about 100 pages to go, but I took a little break so that I could have ice cream and Oreos, and now I'm gonna get back to reading those last 100 pages and wrap this one up. Okay, and just like that, I have finished Leviathan Wakes, and I will say, something I didn't know going into this was that it was a 9-book series with a number of novellas, but something I also wasn't aware of was that it does leave a little bit on a cliffhanger. Like, this definitely is book 1, and as a story, it definitely fulfills in that way. Like, as a solitary story, I loved Miller, I loved Holden, I loved the whole cast and crew. And all of the politics that surrounded it, and the different world that James A. Corey is building. But what I will say is it's going to make you want to pick up book 2. So I really, really enjoyed this. Again, I'm so thrilled with the random number generator for my TBR, because this is something I had read 100 pages and just put it down because it wasn't something I naturally gravitate towards, but I wound up really enjoying it. Now, I don't think I would purchase the entire series to own physically because there's 9 books, but what I do think I'll do is I will continue them as ebooks, and that's saying a lot for me because sci-fi normally isn't my thing, but I really enjoyed this world and I have quickly become very invested in what's going on. So that is it for me. I really enjoyed both of my books this week. Ghost by Dolly Alderton and Leviathan Wakes, the first book in the Expanse series. So I would consider this a win. I would rate this 4 out of 5 stars. And again, that is very high praise when you're not accustomed to sci-fi. I found this was very digestible. I found it was a really good time. And the stakes were definitely risen just by book 1. And that is not easy to do, so I am invested. But that is going to be it for me this week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.